The 1960s, a decade that reshaped how war was seen on screen. Gone were the black and white heroics of earlier years, replaced by deeper, darker, more human stories. These films didn't just show battles, they captured sacrifice, loyalty, fear, and the cost of survival. Each movie became a window into courage, chaos, and humanity's struggle under fire. Tonight, we journey back through 19 unforgettable war films of the 1960s, exploring the explosions, the emotions, and the echoes of history that still live on. From the collapsing bridges of Europe to the deadly jungles of Vietnam, these are the stories that defined a generation of war cinema. Let's begin with movie number 19. Movie number 19, The Bridge at Remagen, 1969, released at the very end of the 1960s. The Bridge at Remagen captures the final desperate days of World War II. The film follows American forces racing to seize the last bridge standing over the Rhine River, a bridge that could end the war sooner or cost thousands of lives. Unlike many heroic war films before it, Remagen feels raw and uncertain. The soldiers are tired, questioning orders, and haunted by the futility of it all. Its realism came at a cost. The movie was filmed during the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia with tanks literally on standby behind the camera. The Bridge at Remagen stands as a gritty and human portrayal of soldiers caught between duty and doubt, a powerful ending to a decade of war cinema. Movie number 18, Attack on the Iron Coast, 1968. A hidden gem of British war cinema, Attack on the Iron Coast tells the story of a daring Allied raid on a heavily fortified Nazi naval base. Inspired by true events, the movie blends intense action with personal redemption. Major Wilson, played by Lloyd Bridges, leads a suicide mission that tests not just his courage, but his men's faith in him. The tension builds as the small commando team races against time, navigating mined waters and relentless gunfire. What sets it apart is its balance, equal parts strategy and sacrifice. There are no perfect heroes here, only flawed men doing impossible things. Attack on the Iron Coast remains one of the most underrated war adventures of its time, a film that deserves far more recognition among 1960s classics. Movie number 17, The Thin Red Line, 1964. Before Terrence Malick's famous 1998 version, there was the original The Thin Red Line, a haunting 1964 adaptation that tackled the Pacific War with brutal honesty. Set on the island of Guadalcanal, the story follows a group of American soldiers struggling not just to survive the Japanese assault, but to keep their sanity. Unlike many patriotic films of its time, The Thin Red Line, 1964, strips away glory. It's filled with mud, fear, and moral exhaustion, showing that war destroys the soul as much as the body. With its haunting narration and claustrophobic jungle combat, this early version paved the way for the psychological war dramas that followed. It's a forgotten masterpiece, one that dared to show the emotional cost of victory. Movie number 16, The Secret Invasion, 1964. Directed by the legendary Roger Corman, The Secret Invasion mixes war with high-stakes espionage. A group of convicted criminals is given a chance at freedom if they can pull off a suicide mission behind enemy lines. Their goal: rescue an Italian general before the Nazis execute him. The setup feels like a prototype for the Dirty Dozen, yet Corman's version adds something darker: desperation and mistrust among men who have nothing left to lose. Explosions, betrayals, and a surprisingly emotional ending make The Secret Invasion one of the most entertaining low-budget war films of the 60s, proving that even in chaos, redemption can be earned the hard way. The movie number 15, None But the Brave, 1965. None But the Brave is a unique war film, directed by and starring Frank Sinatra. It tells the story of American and Japanese soldiers stranded together on a remote Pacific island during World War II. Instead of constant fighting, the movie explores an uneasy truce, as enemies slowly begin to understand each other's humanity. It's a rare anti-war message during a time when most films focused on combat. Sinatra used his fame to make audiences question the point of endless conflict. Quiet, reflective, and emotional, None But the Brave shows that sometimes the bravest thing a soldier can do is choose peace. Movie number 14, PT-109, 1963. Based on the real-life heroism of John F. Kennedy during World War II, PT-109 brings one of America's most famous war stories to the screen. Kennedy, before becoming president, commanded a patrol boat in the Pacific that was sliced in half by a Japanese destroyer. Against all odds, he led his surviving crew through dangerous waters to safety. The film captures both courage and leadership, showing the young Kennedy as a man of action and compassion. With strong performances and stunning ocean cinematography, PT-109 remains one of the most patriotic and inspiring films of the decade. It's more than a war story. It's a look at the making of a future leader. Movie number 13, The War Lover, 1962. Starring Steve McQueen at his most intense, The War Lover explores the thrill and the tragedy of aerial combat. McQueen plays Captain Buzz Rickson, a daring bomber pilot whose lust for danger puts everyone around him at risk. Set in England during World War II, the film mixes adrenaline-pumping air battles with deep psychological conflict. Rickson is both hero and anti-hero, loved by his men but consumed by his obsession with war. The War Lover shows how combat can become addictive, and how some men are lost long before the battle ends. It's moody, stylish, and unforgettable, a perfect reflection of McQueen's screen persona and the dark side of wartime glory. The movie number 12, In Harm's Way, 1965. Directed by Otto Preminger, In Harm's Way stands as one of the grandest and most emotional naval epics ever made. Starring John Wayne and Kirk Douglas, the film unfolds in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, following a disgraced naval officer given one final chance to redeem himself in the Pacific War. Unlike typical action-heavy war films, this one digs into the human cost of leadership, pride, guilt, and the loneliness of command. The sea battles are thrilling, but it's the quiet moments, Wayne staring at the horizon or Douglas confronting his demons, that make the film powerful. With sweeping black and white cinematography and an unforgettable musical score, In Harm's Way captures both the majesty and misery of war at sea. It's a story about mistakes, redemption, and how courage isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Movie number 11, The Bedford Incident, 1965. The Bedford Incident shifts from World War II to the icy tension of the Cold War, and it's every bit as chilling. The film stars Richard Widmark as the obsessed captain of a U.S. destroyer hunting a Soviet submarine in the North Atlantic. As the tension builds, discipline turns into obsession, and one mistake could start World War III. What makes the movie unforgettable isn't just its claustrophobic setting or brilliant acting, it's the message that fear and arrogance can destroy as quickly as any bomb. Filmed in stark black and white, The Bedford Incident feels almost like a psychological horror film, with the ocean itself becoming a trap. Its shocking ending reminds us that sometimes the greatest danger in war isn't the enemy, it's the men who refuse to back down. Movie number 10, The Devil's Brigade, 1968. Before The Dirty Dozen became famous, The Devil's Brigade told a similar story of misfits, rebels, and heroes united for an impossible mission. Based on true events, it follows the formation of an elite American-Canadian commando unit during World War II. The early scenes are filled with humor and tension, rough men clashing with military order. But when the real battle begins, everything changes. The attack on a Nazi mountain fortress delivers some of the best large-scale combat scenes of the decade, filmed with explosive realism and emotional depth. What makes The Devil's Brigade stand out is its heart. Beneath the action lies a message about unity, how courage and respect can grow even between the unlikeliest of brothers. It's loud, it's human, and it's one of the great forgotten war adventures of the 1960s. Movie number 9, Tobruk, 1967. Tobruk takes us into the scorching deserts of North Africa, where an Allied commando team sets out to destroy German fuel depots behind enemy lines. George Peppard and Rock Hudson lead the operation, a daring mix of soldiers, spies, and double agents. The movie combines espionage, deception, and explosive action, all against a backdrop of sandstorms and shifting loyalties. Its desert visuals are stunning: golden dunes, burning convoys, and tanks crawling under the blazing sun. But beneath the spectacle lies a deeper theme: that even in war, truth can be the hardest weapon to find. Tobruk is both an adventure and a moral test. A movie that proves courage sometimes means trusting the enemy to do the right thing. Movie number 8, Anzio, 1968. Anzio recreates one of World War II's most tragic and misunderstood battles: the Allied landing in Italy that turned into a bloody stalemate. Robert Mitchum stars as a war correspondent who joins the troops, only to witness bravery and blunders on a massive scale. The film's realism stands out. Endless mud, fear, and exhaustion fill every frame. Soldiers question their purpose, and commanders question their strategy as victory slips further away. There's a haunting scene where Mitchum walks alone through an abandoned battlefield whispering, "Nobody wins in war, some just lose less." Anzio is not about glory, it's about survival. And the painful lessons that history too often repeats. Movie number 7, The Night of the Generals, 1967. Blending war with mystery, The Night of the Generals is one of the most unique World War II films ever made. Part war drama, part murder thriller, it stars Peter O'Toole as a brilliant but insane Nazi general, suspected of a horrific crime, even as the war collapses around him. The story spans across years, from occupied Poland to the final days in Berlin, showing how power and madness feed each other. O'Toole delivers one of his finest performances: cold, elegant, terrifying. The movie's strength lies in its tone: stylish, haunting, and deeply psychological. It shows how evil can wear the face of intellect and charm. The Night of the Generals reminds us that sometimes the darkest battles happen not on the front lines, but within the human. Movie number 6, 633 Squadron, 1964. Released in 1964, 633 Squadron takes us high into the deadly skies of World War II, where courage and sacrifice define every heartbeat. The film follows the daring pilots of the Royal Air Force's elite 633 Squadron, tasked with an almost impossible mission: destroy a hidden Nazi rocket fuel plant deep within a Norwegian fjord. As the engines roar and propellers spin, we meet squadron leader Roy Grant, played by Cliff Robertson, a man shaped by war, haunted by loss, yet unbroken in resolve. The mission demands precision and bravery. The smallest mistake could doom them all. The movie opens with breathtaking aerial sequences that were revolutionary for their time. Filmed with real aircraft, mosquito bombers slicing through mountain valleys, 633 Squadron captures the realism and danger of low-altitude attack runs. There are no digital tricks here, just real pilots, real planes, and real risk. But beneath the thunder of engines lies a deeper story, one of human endurance and brotherhood. The men of 633 Squadron know the odds are against them. They laugh together, they fight together, and in the quiet moments before takeoff, they wonder who among them will return. The tension builds toward a climax that defines heroism in its purest form. When Grant's squadron launches their final assault, the screen fills with chaos. Anti-aircraft fire streaks across the sky, mountains explode with bombs, and one by one, the brave pilots fall. The mission succeeds, but victory comes at a devastating cost. 633. Squadron isn't just about war, it's about men who fly towards certain death because someone has to. It reminds us that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the strength to act in spite of it. With its powerful score and spectacular flying sequences, this 1964 classic became a template for many modern air combat films, even inspiring George Lucas during the making of Star Wars. As the credits roll, the hum of engines fades. But the spirit of 633 Squadron continues to soar across time, immortalized in film history. Movie number 5, The Green Berets, 1968. Released in 1968, The Green Berets stands apart as one of the most controversial war films of its era, and one of the few to tackle the Vietnam War while it was still raging. Directed by and starring the legendary John Wayne, the movie blends patriotism, moral conviction, and cinematic spectacle into a story that divided audiences but captured the essence of American determination. Set against the dense jungles of Southeast Asia, the film follows Colonel Mike Kirby and his team of elite Green Berets as they fight to secure a strategic base and rescue a captured journalist. The story unfolds through a lens of valor and loyalty, showing the challenges soldiers faced far from home, the uncertainty of every mission, the loneliness of the night, and the unbreakable trust between comrades. John Wayne delivers one of his most iconic performances: stoic, commanding, and fiercely patriotic. To some, the film was a symbol of American pride. To others, it was a reflection of propaganda. But beyond politics, the Green Berets captures the emotional toll of war, the bond between soldiers who risk everything for each other and for what they believe in. Technically, it was ambitious. The battle scenes filmed in collaboration with the U.S. Army used real military equipment and helicopters, giving the movie an authenticity rarely seen at the time. The jungle feels alive, humid, suffocating, and filled with danger at every turn. Yet, what truly sets the Green Berets apart is its human heart. The relationship between the soldiers and the Vietnamese people, the sorrow of loss, and the courage of men facing impossible odds. These moments bring emotion beneath the explosions. And then there's the ending. Somber, haunting, unforgettable. As the sun sets and the sound of war fades, a child walks beside Colonel Kirby, holding his hand, a symbol of innocence and hope amid the destruction. Whether you see it as a tribute or a debate, the Green Berets remains a powerful artifact of 1960s cinema, a reflection of the era's conflict, pride, and pain. Its message endures. Courage has many faces, and every soldier carries his own war within. Movie number 4, The Victors, 1963. Released in 1963, The Victors is not your typical World War II film. Directed by Carl Foreman, this movie strips away the glory and heroism often seen in war cinema, replacing them with brutal honesty and moral questioning. It's not about winners or losers, it's about survival, guilt, and the haunting emptiness that follows victory. The story spans from the Allied invasion of Sicily to the final days of the war in Europe, following a group of American soldiers as they march across the continent. Each chapter reveals the psychological toll of war, not through battles alone, but through moments of silence, doubt, and disillusionment. Unlike traditional war epics, The Victors refuses to glorify combat. Its soldiers are not invincible heroes. They're men broken by what they've seen. One moment they're liberating a town, the next, they're witnessing the execution of deserters or civilians. The film holds up a mirror to humanity's darkest impulses and asks, what do we really gain when we win a war? The performances are hauntingly real, led by George Peppard, George Hamilton, and Eli Wallach, each actor portraying a soldier caught between duty and despair. The black and white cinematography adds a cold, documentary-like realism, while the haunting score underscores the film's emotional depth. One of the most unforgettable scenes involves a firing squad, not of enemies, but of fellow soldiers executing their own. It's a chilling reminder that in war, morality becomes blurred, and even victors carry the weight of loss. The Victors was praised by critics for its courage to question the narrative of glory, and condemned by others for its bleakness. But decades later, its message feels even more powerful. Wars may end, but their scars linger forever. This 1963 masterpiece dares to say what few war films do, that there are no real victors, only survivors. It's raw, it's painful, and it leaves you thinking long after the screen fades to black. Movie number 3, The Mountain Road, 1960. Released in 1960, The Mountain Road takes us to wartime China, far from the Western Front, where moral choices are sharper than bullets. James Stewart stars as Major Baldwin, an American engineer officer ordered to destroy roads and bridges to slow the Japanese advance. It's a mission of strategy, but one that quickly becomes a personal struggle between duty and conscience. Unlike many war epics, this film focuses not on gunfire, but on the quiet devastation that follows it. Each demolished bridge means villagers cut off, families stranded, and lives broken. Baldwin begins as a soldier following orders, but as the journey climbs higher into the Chinese mountains, he's forced to face the human cost of those decisions. The film's dry, dusty landscapes mirror his growing isolation. Stewart, known for his calm integrity, delivers one of his most complex performances, a man trying to hold on to decency while surrounded by chaos. There are few grand speeches here, only moral weight. Baldwin clashes with a Chinese liaison played by Lisa Liu, whose courage and grief make him see the war through different eyes. Their conversations, half spoken, half felt, cut deeper than any battle scene. When the mission ends, there's no celebration. Just silence, smoke, and the realization that sometimes winning a war means losing a part of your humanity. The Mountain Road remains a quiet gem of the 1960s, intimate, questioning, and painfully human. It reminds us that the hardest battles aren't fought with guns, but with conscience. Movie number 2, The Americanization of Emily, 1964. Released in 1964, The Americanization of Emily is one of the most unusual war movies ever made. Equal parts romance, satire, and anti-war philosophy. Directed by Arthur Hiller and written by Paddy Chayefsky, it turns the myths of heroism upside down and asks, what if cowardice is the sanest thing in war? James Garner stars as Lieutenant Commander Charlie Madison, a charming naval officer whose job is to supply luxuries to American brass in wartime London. He's cynical, witty, and proudly unheroic. Then he meets Emily Barham, played by Julie Andrews, a war widow scarred by loss, yet drawn to Charlie's honesty. Their relationship becomes the film's heartbeat, tender, tragic, and filled with biting humor. While the bombs fall outside, they argue about morality and survival. Emily wants purpose. Charlie wants to stay alive. When fate drags him onto the beach at Normandy, Charlie accidentally becomes the first American hero of D-Day, not by choice, but by absurd chance. Suddenly, the man who hated war becomes its poster boy. Beneath its wit, The Americanization of Emily carries one of the boldest messages of its decade, that glorifying death in war only ensures there will be more of it. Julie Andrews and James Garner's chemistry gives the satire a heartbreaking humanity, while Chayefsky's dialogue crackles with intelligence and irony. It's not the explosions you remember, it's the words. This 1964 classic reminds us that courage and cowardice often look the same in uniform, and that love, not victory, is the only thing worth surviving for. Movie number 1, Battle of the Coral Sea, 1960. Released in 1960, Battle of the Coral Sea dives beneath the waves into one of the Pacific's most critical naval encounters, the first major carrier-to-carrier clash of World War II. Cliff Robertson plays Lieutenant Commander Duke Gifford, a submarine officer whose vessel prowls enemy waters in the months leading to the historic battle. When his sub is captured by the Japanese, he and his crew are thrown into a brutal prison camp. Here, survival replaces strategy, and courage becomes endurance. Director Paul Wenkos balances tight underwater tension with human drama on the surface. The claustrophobic submarine interiors, the echoing sonar pings, the silent fear as depth charges rain down. Each moment pulls you deeper into the pressure of command and captivity. Yet the movie's strength lies in its restraint. Instead of turning the war into spectacle, it shows the loneliness of men cut off from the world, fighting not just the enemy but despair itself. When the tide finally turns at the real Battle of the Coral Sea, the victory feels earned, not through glory but through perseverance. The film ends not in triumph but reflection. The ocean is calm again, but the men who survived will never truly leave the deep. Battle of the Coral Sea stands as a salute to those unseen warriors beneath the waves, men whose courage held the line long before history caught up with them. Outro 19 stories. 19 glimpses into the decade when war movies grew bolder, darker, and more human. The 1960s taught filmmakers and audiences that courage isn't just in victory, it's in doubt, in loss, in the quiet moments between explosions. From the thunder of 633 Squadron to the soul-searching of The Americanization of Emily, each film in this series reveals a different face of conflict, some heroic, some tragic, all unforgettable. And as the screen fades, remember, every reel of film carries the echo of real lives, real choices, and real sacrifice. The stories may end, but the memory of their courage never does. This was part 3 of war movies of the 1960s. Stay tuned for the next journey, because history's greatest stories are never truly over.